explanation of English grammar. Whether you're a beginner trying to grasp the basics or someone looking to refine your skills, this video is for you. Grammar is the backbone of effective communication, and understanding it will improve both your writing and speaking. Before we dive in, I encourage you to grab a notebook or open a note-taking app. Jot down anything that stands out to you. It's going to be a long session, but by the end of it, you'll have a strong grasp of English grammar. So, stay with me until the end. Here's what we'll cover today. Parts of speech. To understand the building blocks of sentences, sentence structure, how to form sentences that make sense, tenses. To talk about the past, present, and future, punctuation. So your writing is clear and effective, and some common mistakes people often make in English. By the end of this video, you'll have a solid understanding of all these topics, and you'll be able to use English with much more confidence. Let's jump right in. Chapter 1. Parts of Speech. 1.1. Nouns. All right, let's start with one of the most basic elements of English grammar. Nouns. Nouns are the building blocks of any sentence. They are words that name people, places, things, or ideas. Essentially, they help us identify everything around us. Definition and types of nouns. Now, nouns come in different types. Let me break them down for you. Proper nouns. These name specific people, places, or organizations. For example, John, India, and Google are all proper nouns. They always start with a capital letter. Common nouns. These refer to general things rather than specific names. For instance, doctor, city, or company. They are not capitalized unless they start a sentence. Countable nouns. These are things that we can count, like apple or chair. You can say 1 apple, 2 apples, and so on. Uncountable nouns. These refer to things that we cannot count, like water, sugar, or information. You wouldn't say 1 water. Instead, you'd say a glass of water. Abstract nouns. These are nouns that refer to ideas, qualities, or states. For example, happiness, freedom, or love. You can't physically touch or see them, but they are still things we experience. Collective nouns. These are words used to refer to a group of people or things. Examples include team, family, and audience. Even though they represent more than one person or thing, they are treated as singular. Examples. Let's look at a few examples to make this clearer. In the sentence, John is a doctor. John is a proper noun because it's a specific name, and doctor is a common noun because it refers to a general profession. Another example is, the family is eating dinner. Here, family is a collective noun because it refers to a group. Singular and plural nouns. Now, let's talk about singular and plural nouns. Singular nouns refer to just one thing, while plural nouns refer to more than one. For most nouns, you can simply add ans or es to make them plural. For example, book becomes books. Class becomes classes. But there are some irregular plural forms you should watch out for. Child becomes children. Person becomes people. Mouse becomes mice. These don't follow the typical rules, so it's important to memorize them. Nouns can be proper or common, countable or uncountable, abstract or collective. Singular nouns refer to one thing, and plural nouns refer to more than one. Be mindful of irregular plural forms. Now that we've covered nouns, let's move on to another key part of speech, pronouns. These words make our sentences more interesting and less repetitive. Let's get into that next. 1.2 Pronouns. Next up, we have pronouns. Pronouns are words that take the place of nouns to avoid repetition. Instead of saying, John likes John's car, we can say, he likes his car. It sounds more natural and less repetitive. Types of pronouns. Let's quickly go over the main types of pronouns. Personal pronouns. These refer to specific people or things. For example, I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. These are the most common pronouns we use in everyday conversation. Possessive pronouns. These show ownership, like my, your, his, her, its, our, and their. For example, this is my book, or is this your bag? Reflexive pronouns. Used when the subject and the object of the sentence are the same. These include myself, yourself, himself, herself, etc. For example, she hurt herself. Relative pronouns? These link parts of a sentence together. Common ones include who, whom, whose, which, and that. For example, the person who called you is my friend. Demonstrative pronouns. These point to specific things. For example, this, that, these, and those. You might say, I want this book, not that one. Examples. Let's take a simple sentence. She gave him the book. Here, she and him are personal pronouns because they replace the names of people. Common pronoun mistakes. Now, one common mistake is mixing up subject and object pronouns. For example, instead of saying, him is my friend, you should say, he is my friend. Remember, use subject pronouns. I, he, she, they for the subject of the sentence, and object pronouns, me, him, her, them for the object. (1.3) Verbs. Now, let's talk about verbs. Verbs are the action words in a sentence. They tell us what the subject is doing. Without verbs, we wouldn't have sentences that make sense. Types of verbs. There are three main types of verbs. Action verbs. These express actions like run, eat, play. For example, she runs every day. Auxiliary verbs, helping verbs. These help the main verb express different tenses or moods, like is, are, was, were. For example, he is playing football. Modal verbs. These are used to express possibility, permission, or obligation. Common modal verbs include can, could, will, would, must, and should. For example, she can swim. Introduction to verb tenses. Verbs also change form to show when an action happens. This is called verb tense. We'll dive deeper into tenses in Chapter 3, but here's a quick example. Present. She runs every day. Past. She ran yesterday. Future. She will run tomorrow. Examples. An example of an action verb is she runs every day. An auxiliary verb helps form continuous tenses, as in, he is playing football. We'll cover more on these in our tenses section. (1.4) Adjectives. Let's move on to adjectives. Adjectives describe or modify nouns. They tell us more about the qualities of a person, place, or thing. For example, if I say, the tall building, the word tall is an adjective describing the building. Comparative and superlative forms. Adjectives also help us compare things. Comparative. For example, big becomes bigger when comparing two things. This house is bigger than that one. Superlative. This is used when comparing more than two things. Big becomes biggest. This is the biggest house on the block. Examples. Let's look at a sentence. The tall building is next to the small house. Here, tall and small are adjectives describing the building and the house. 1.5 Adverbs. Adverbs are words that describe or modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. They tell us how, when, where, or to what extent something happens. Types of adverbs. Let's look at some common types of adverbs. Manner. These tell us how something happens, like quickly or slowly. For example, she runs quickly. Time. These tell us when something happens, like soon or yesterday. For example, he will arrive soon. Place. These tell us where something happens, like here or there. For example, please sit here. Frequency. These tell us how often something happens, like always or sometimes. For example, she always eats breakfast. Degree. These tell us to what extent something happens, like very or to. For example, it's too cold today. 1.6 Prepositions. 4 minutes. Introduction to prepositions. Prepositions are words that show relationships between nouns and other words in a sentence. They can indicate time, place, or direction. Common prepositions. Here are some common prepositions. In, used for larger areas, places, or time periods. For example, I live in Bangalore. On, used for specific dates or surfaces. For example, the book is on the table. At, used for specific times or places. For example, I'll meet you at 5 p.m. By shows proximity or method. For example, she travels by train. Examples. Here's an example. The book is on the table. This shows the position of the book relative to the table. 1.7 Conjunctions. Conjunctions are words that connect clauses or sentences. They help us form longer, more complex sentences. Types of conjunctions. There are three main types. Coordinating conjunctions. Words like and, but, or. For example, I want to go out, but it's raining. Subordinating conjunctions. Words like because, although, since. For example, although she was tired, she finished the work. Correlative conjunctions. Pairs like either, or neither, nor. For example, you can have either tea or coffee. 1.8 Interjections. Finally, let's talk about interjections. These are short words or phrases that express emotion. They're usually used in informal conversations or writing. Examples. Common interjections include wow, expressing surprise, ouch, expressing pain, oh, expressing realization. For example, wow, that's amazing, or ouch, that hurt. Chapter 2. Sentence Structure 2.1 Subject-Verb Agreement. Now, let's talk about subject-verb agreement. This simply means that the verb must agree with the subject in number and person. If the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb must be plural. Basic rules. Here are some basic rules to follow. For singular subjects, add s or es to the verb. For example, she likes apples. For plural subjects, use the base form of the verb. For example, they like apples. So it's she likes apples, singular subject, and they like apples, plural subject. Common errors. A common mistake is mixing up singular and plural forms. For example, she like apples is incorrect because the singular subject she requires the verb to be likes, not like. Examples. Let's look at a few more examples. He runs every morning. Here, he is singular, so we use runs. They run every morning. In this case, they is plural, so we use run. To sum up, always ensure your verb agrees with your subject. Singular subjects need singular verbs, and plural subjects need plural verbs. 2.2 Types of Sentences. Now, let's explore the different types of sentences. Sentences can be grouped into 4 main types, each with a different function. A declarative sentence makes a statement and gives information. It ends with a period. For example, I am happy. This sentence simply tells us something. Interrogative sentences. An interrogative sentence asks a question. It ends with a question mark. For example, are you coming? Imperative sentences. An imperative sentence gives a command or makes a request. It often starts with the verb, and it can end with either a period or an exclamation mark. For example, close the door or please sit down. Exclamatory sentences. Finally, we have exclamatory sentences. These express strong emotions and always end with an exclamation mark. For example, wow, that's amazing. Examples. Here's a quick summary of these types. Declarative, the sky is blue. Interrogative, is the sky blue? Imperative, look at the sky. Exclamatory, what a beautiful sky. 2.3 Simple compound and complex sentences. Simple sentences. Let's dive into sentence structures. First, we have simple sentences. A simple sentence consists of just one independent clause with a subject and a verb. For example, she runs. This sentence is simple because it has just one subject, she, and one verb, runs. Compound sentences. Next, we have compound sentences. These are made by combining two independent clauses with a coordinating conjunction, such as and, but, or. For example, I went to the store and I bought milk. Here we have two independent clauses. I went to the store and I bought milk, joined by and. Complex sentences. Lastly, we have complex sentences. A complex sentence has one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. The dependent clause usually starts with a subordinating conjunction, such as because, although, if, or when. For example, because it was raining, we stayed inside. The dependent clause is because it was raining, and the independent clause is we stayed inside. Examples. Here are some more examples. Simple. She dances every morning. Compound. She dances every morning, and she sings in the evening. Complex. Although she was tired, she continued dancing. To recap, simple sentences have one subject and verb. Compound sentences join two independent clauses with a conjunction, and complex sentences include both independent and dependent clauses. Chapter 3. Tenses. Present tense. Let's begin our discussion on tenses with the present tense. This tense is used to describe current actions, habits, or general truths. There are 4 forms of the present tense, each serving a unique purpose. Simple present. The simple present is used for habits, routines, and facts. For example, she reads every day. Habit. The sun rises in the east. General truth. Notice that for singular subjects like she, we add an as to the verb. Present continuous. The present continuous describes actions that are happening right now. It's formed using em, is, er, plus verbing. For example, I am reading right now. We use this tense when we want to emphasize that something is happening at this very moment. Present perfect. The present perfect is used to describe actions that happened at an unspecified time in the past, but are relevant to the present. It's formed using have has plus the past participle of the verb. For example, she has finished her homework. We don't know exactly when she finished, but the action is relevant now because her homework is done. Present perfect continuous. Finally, the present perfect continuous is used for actions that started in the past and are still continuing. It's formed using have, has been, plus verbing. For example, I have been studying for 2 hours. This shows that the action of studying began 2 hours ago and is still happening. To summarize, the present tense can describe habits, current actions, past actions relevant to now, or actions continuing from the past to the present. 3.2 Past tense. Next, let's talk about the past tense. This tense is used to describe actions that have already happened. Like the present tense, there are 4 forms. Simple past. The simple past is used for completed actions in the past. For regular verbs, we add ed to the verb. For example, he went to the store yesterday. This indicates that the action of going to the store is complete. Past continuous. The past continuous is used to describe actions that were in progress at a specific moment in the past. It's formed using was, where, plus verbing. For example, she was cooking when the phone rang. This shows that the action of cooking was happening when another event occurred. Past perfect. The past perfect is used to describe an action that was completed before another action in the past. It's formed using had plus the past participle of the verb. For example, I had finished the project before he arrived. This means that by the time he arrived, the project was already done. Past perfect continuous. The past. Perfect continuous describes an action that was happening over a period of time before another action in the past. It's formed using had been plus verbing. For example, they had been waiting for an hour when the bus arrived. This emphasizes the duration of the waiting before the bus arrived. In summary, the past tense helps us talk about actions that happened at specific moments in the past, actions in progress, or actions completed before another. Three point three Future tense. Now, let's move on to the future tense, which describes actions that will happen. Just like the other tenses, there are 4 forms. Simple future. The simple future is used to describe actions that will happen in the future. It's formed using will plus the base form of the verb. For example, I will travel next week. This simply states a future action. Future continuous. The future continuous is used to describe actions that will be in progress at a specific time in the future. It's formed using will be plus verbing. For example, I will be sleeping at 10 p.m. This shows that the action of sleeping will be happening at that specific future time. Future perfect. The future perfect is used to describe actions that will be completed before a certain time in the future. It's formed using will have plus the past participle of the verb. For example, by tomorrow, I will have finished the report. This means that at some point before tomorrow, the report will be done. Future perfect continuous. Finally, the future perfect continuous is used for actions that will have been happening for a period of time by a certain point in the future. It's formed using will have been plus verbing. For example, by next year, I will have been working here for 5 years. This emphasizes the duration of the action up to a point in the future. To summarize, the future tense helps us talk about actions that will happen, actions in progress in the future, actions completed before a certain time, or actions happening over a period into the future. Chapter 4. Punctuation 4.1. Periods, question marks, and exclamation marks. Punctuation marks are the key to structuring clear sentences. Let's begin with the most commonly used punctuation marks: periods, question marks, and exclamation marks. They help us indicate the end of sentences and show different emotions or intent. Periods. We use a period to indicate the end of a declarative sentence or statement. It simply tells the reader that the thought is complete. For example, I like ice cream. Here, the period signals that the sentence is complete. Question marks. A question mark is used at the end of a sentence to indicate a question. It transforms a statement into a query. For example, do you like ice cream? This shows that the speaker is asking for information. Exclamation marks. An exclamation mark is used to express strong emotions like surprise, excitement, or urgency. For example, wow, this is amazing. It emphasizes the excitement of the speaker. Remember, we should avoid overusing exclamation marks in formal writing. 4.2. Commas, semicolons, and colons. Now, let's look at punctuation marks that help us organize ideas within sentences. Commas, semicolons, and colons. Each of these has a specific purpose, helping us make our writing clear and structured. Commas. A comma is one of the most versatile punctuation marks. It's used to separate items in a list. I bought apples, bananas, and oranges. Separate clauses in a sentence. Although it was raining, we went to the park. Using commas correctly ensures that our sentences flow smoothly and clearly. Semicolons. A semicolon is used to connect two closely related independent clauses without using a conjunction. For example, she loves reading. He loves writing. The semicolon here links two related ideas, making them more connected than if we used a period. Colons. A colon is used to introduce a list, an explanation, or to emphasize something that follows. For example, there are 3 things I need: milk, eggs, and bread. The colon introduces the list of items. You can also use it to give emphasis or clarification after a statement. To summarize, periods, question marks, and exclamation marks help us define the end of our sentences, while commas, semicolons, and colons help us organize our ideas within sentences, ensuring clarity and flow. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe our channel. Have a nice day.